Good evening, folks. Time for another episode of the Mistwalkers. So, there has been a lot of talk over the last few days about what's happened with the UK Nationals and what a certain player did in regards to his play at the UK Nationals. I have been asked for my opinion on this, mostly because I have a long-standing history of being a upper-level tournament player, qualified for 4 separate professional level circuits, and folks were asking me, what did I see? What did I think? Of course, the ruling on this by Flesh and Blood was that, based on the evidence of the video, and what information that they could gather, that yes, the player gave was not was given unsportsmanlike conduct, for actions that he took during the game that or had gone past, I assume, had gone past it'd been too long since the player would have created that, particularly the embodiment of Earth token, as well as correcting his opponent about the embodiment of lightning trigger that he forgot. So what I want to talk about is, excuse me, the idea of how competitive level play is structured, and the things that you as a player need to watch for. Now, it is, I won't say one way or the other whether I believe this person is attempting to eschew the rules or if they legitimately don't know. However, I will say that the Magic the Gathering community believes that this player in particular is smart enough to know the rules and how he can eschew them. And the reason that there's an uproar in the Magic community over this decision is simply because they have seen this player do this previously. Now, I will say the player's never been banned or DQ'd for those particular reasons. But what I want to do, instead of focusing on the player itself, what I want to do is talk about what you can do as a player when you're at a event, whether it's Road to Nationals, the Calling, a ProQuest, those higher level events where there are, there's more at stake than just your locals. There's some things that you can do as a player that will help, particularly in instances where the person is trying to get a competitive level advantage on you by doing mind games. Um, this will help. Um, this will help you identify those type of players, and it will also help you to make sure that the judge staff is very aware of this, because the more that they're aware of the situation, the more they can watch these particular people, and the sooner that certain people can be disqualified and or banned from events. Um, we don't want cheaters, and we don't want players sharking the system. Every system is breakable, but just like a hacker, just like phishing emails, there's a way to protect yourself, and that's what I want to talk about. Um, so players are expected to hold themselves to the same standard that they hold their opponents to. Right? This is very important. Um, I mean, because obviously, if you're not holding yourself to the same standard as you are your opponent, then it could be construed as cheating. So the best thing to do, if you're a player who's never played on a competitive scene before, or if you're a player who has, rule number one is study the basic rules and interactions that you're going to deal with. Understand which interactions you have to deal with your deck first. Look at your potential metagame. Understand what the what your opponent is going to play. If if you have a lot of Dorinthia players in your area, you may be very well versed at playing against Dorinthia. But say you don't have a lot of Prism players in your area, and you sit down to play one, and you don't understand the rules around Prism's cards and how they interact, then that's going to be an advantage your opponent has, because they've more than likely played the deck enough that they understand it. So, first of all, understand your deck and understand the metagame. Number two, sit down with your local judge or your team and understand the interactions that you're going to deal with on a game-by-game basis. Ones that are going to come up over and over and over again. If you're practicing for a larger event, particularly with the consequences, with the money that's involved, the Pro Tour invite, the gold cold foiled cards. There's a lot there. But understand you'll need to play enough games that you understand those interactions, and that the interactions will be seamless with your deck. And then understand the interactions involving the decks that, you can't test every hero, but you can test the ones that you're confident are going to be, the S tier, the A tier, the B tier. And some of them you may have seen, in your local metagame. Some of them may be teammates, etc. Whatever. Um, that's the first two things that you need to do. The next thing, number 3, that you need to do is don't hesitate to call a judge. Judges are there to help correct game states. Whether it's a minor rules violation or a major rules violation, the idea is they are to come over, assess the situation, correct the game state as much as possible, and then, hand out the ruling as necessary. As someone who's been a level 1 judge for Magic, I've been a judge for Decipher, Upper Deck, and Blizzard after they got the license back from Upper Deck with World of Warcraft TCG. I'm a level 0 with currently with Flesh and Blood, and I've judged and played a number of different CCGs in my time. We're there to help correct issues that come up and give understanding to the players about how a card is supposed to play and how a card interacts with another card, etc. The punishment side is not really something you can worry about. Our job is to correct these as much as possible, and then if it's at a higher level event, we have to mark these down that these have happened. I will tell you that my first PTQ in Magic the Gathering, I had a judge call my first round opponent where I had a carded play that at the beginning of each player's upkeep, they destroyed a non-basic. You had to destroy a non-basic land they controlled, and I skipped right past my upkeep, drew my card, played my land for the turn, and then tapped out to play a creature spell. When I tapped out to play the creature spell, that's when my opponent called the judge, and rightfully so, as that land would have made my 5th land, and I couldn't cast the spell if I'd have officially sacrificed the non-basic land that I should have sacrificed during my upkeep because of my own card. So I failed to maintain game state. We rewound back to the start of the upkeep. I had to put the trigger on the stack, and then I had to sacrifice it. The rest of the stuff continued. Obviously, I couldn't play my Spirit Monger. And the judge that walked up was none other than Saul Malka, who was a very good player in the Atlanta area during that time period. They're there to correct mistakes. You're going to have mistakes, whether it's intentional or non-intentional. We're there to help. You don't have. When you call a judge over, you don't have to blatantly call out that you think the opponent's cheating. But you have to explain what happened in that scenario, and then your opponent gets a chance to explain. The judge will come over. If it's a simple rules question of one player not understanding the rules over the other, then they will correct it. If it's a repeated issue by the same player where they forget to maintain the game state in one form or the other, then the penalty can increase. Now, I think I've only gotten um, two warnings in the entirety of the time that I played any collectible card game. But I was a rule stickler. I wanted to make sure that I knew the rules and that I played by the rules and my opponent played by the rules. Um, so understand your tournament rules as well as your in-game rules. Don't be afraid to call a judge. Most opponents understand that you're calling a judge to fix something that happened. Now, for the folks who are, when you're playing, they are correct in here that you need to be clear about communicating. Um, you need to clearly communicate, I'm playing this card, pitching this for X number of resources. I'm playing this card, etc. So we're going to go over some of these the right way to play and how to um, get your play up to speed where each of the players understands what's going on. I'm not knocking any of these players. It's more of a let's clearly define what's going on. So we've got a Prism versus a Bravo here.
I'll go first. Is that alright? Sure. Good luck. Thank you. I'll just put a load of counters and stuff here if you need nothing unusual. No. Nothing unusual. Crit surge. Oh. No, I'll end my turn. Do you have any answers for end my turn? No? Okay, so it's fine. I will put this somewhere else. Wait, so before, so you've declared no instance. So I can't. You have to ask for that. Okay. Right.
So the player on the right, once he says, I'll put a card in my arsenal, that is the start of the end phase, and you cannot play anything. You probably noticed that he had a sigil in his hand. If he wanted to play the sigil, he has active player, inactive player as far as priority. He passed his priority to his opponent. His opponent says, I have no instance to play. that means that means that phase ends. It goes to the next phase. That's um, so he wanted to take this back. Um, the problem is they both passed. Um, let's go on to the next turn.
Over to you.
Okay. I don't know if any of you guys have watched Fabrica, but the proper order to play a card is you announce the card and you announce the card and you put the card into play on the chain. Then you pitch the card from your hand to pay for the card. Then if there's any additional costs, like there is with the entwine cards, where you have to show a card of that element to give it a bonus, that is paid after the cost is paid. So this is technically the incorrect way to play the card. Now, there are a lot of games you shortcut, and especially to get the entire game or match in at a time. A lot of times you do have to shortcut. The only way, the only instance where this can be a problem, where you've already pitched your card and you've already attempted to play your card. You played first and then pitched. If you attempt to play this, and it is illegal, you can at least put the single card back in your hand. If you've pitched another card, if you've already gone ahead and pitched to pay for it, then that's another card that you've revealed to your opponent. And honestly, you don't want to do that, especially at this level.
Go again. Oh. Righteous fencing. Block. Yeah, I'll pay for the action point. Pass them across to you. Okay, so it resolves. Just check. Carry on. It's going to swing for 4. Just 4? Yeah. 1 and 1. And 1 hand, 1 ass. No block. Reaction. I will sink this. Okay. Sigil. Cheers. Okay. Over to you.
Now, there was something mentioned in the... Bring it back to this other tile. Tokens that are not in play should not be present in the game space. So, obviously, this is something also that a lot of us players do. I even do it. Because it's convenient to have it face down on the table, where you can simply flip it up and show it. However, at this level, they absolutely yeah, this is basically designed to make sure that you can't sneak the card into play, or you know. eh, So everything that you end up creating, every token, should be announced, so that you know that you didn't miss the trigger. If you so, I'm gonna continue on, and I'm gonna go to another match in a minute just to see what we can find here.
5 for the to run. Yep, for 1, it hits you take 2. There we go, yeah. No block, take 2. Yep. I asked my pass. Okay. Crit surge. 4 go again.
So other than the token being in the game space turned over or whatever, he did it. This gentleman created a surge, and then he's used all his resources for these two. He's announced both of these, so that looks everything seems okay there.
No block. Yep. 6.
Now, typically, I go through when I'm playing. I go through saying, play this, attack for whatever. They say no defense. I say attack reaction. I'll play this if I have it. If I don't, I'll pass. Opponent will say, I'll say defense reaction. Do you have any? No. And then if no, then they pass. And then we resolve it. And technically, that communication is vital to make sure that both players know where they're at, and B, that your opponent can't sneak something in later and say, "Oh, but I actually had this to play." Well, no, you passed at that point.
And then I will break your edge wrath. Yeah, I won't do anything. Okay. Your turn. I'll a 6 for an Arclight. Yep. Play an energy potion. Okay. And then my turn. So I'll break the Arclight. Yeah. And then end of my turn. Sigil. Yeah. Do some good deals as well. Gain 3. Sure. Before you draw, yeah. Pitch 5 to play Genesis. Yep. Arsenal. Surge. It's you then. Start turn, Genesis. I'll put one in and make the shield. I'll file. 37. Oh no, you don't. This one just goes in. Drop. Swing it for 1. No defense reaction? No. Take 1. Play 3. 1 for 3? Yeah. I draw 3. You?
All right, I'm gonna go to another match and see if we get anything else.
Okay, first turn for me will involve one in here. Leaving 2 floating. I'm then going to pitch this. Oh, I'm not going to pitch this. I'm going to put 1 in here. Leaving 1 here. Up to 2. And then I'm going to pitch this. Put a plasma purifier. And then I'm going to ask for a pass.
So before your turn ends,
Happy?
hold them off.
Yep.
That's my pitch.
Yep. This is not generous. That's all I can tell you.
Anyway,
Okay, cool. So I'm going to put this on the bottom. We both draw up.
Yep.
4, 3, 4.
Now, see, this player, he caught his mistake. Obviously, you cannot pay, or you cannot pitch an additional card to pay a cost that doesn't exist yet. He caught it. Yeah, he used 1 to load up and then pitch the card to play the plasma purifier. That was a good catch. Went to play the card in his arsenal, and his opponent's like, I got something I'd like to play, thank you. Before we get to that point, and did, so.
now the triumph.
Okay. So this is a point that of emphasis that I was going to go to. I'll back it up just a hair here. Too far. So you notice the player on the prism player went to put a card down on the table, and before he put it down, he was like, "This is not the card I want to play." Brings it back to his hand and plays the other card that he was looking at. This is very important in professional level play. If a player plays a card and then completely takes his hand off the card, unless the player read aloud the name of the card that he was trying to play, and that card is not the one that's in play, if he took his hand off the card and motioned his hand back up to his hand, I consider that card is now on the stack. This is the card you attempted to play. Now maybe but since this player I'll go back to it now, see if I can get it again. Hard to get the timings on these.
Now the triumph.
Okay, so there you heard him say He went to play down the other Herald, realized either that's not the card I want to play, or had a second thought, left the card. His hand was still touching the card, put it back in his hand, went to put the other card down, and he says this card's name. He announced Herald of Triumph, I believe is what he said. That's the correct. Now, if he would have played the other card down and took his hand off the card and said Herald of Triumph, and then noticed that wasn't Herald of Triumph that he was trying to play, me as an opponent would say, were you trying to play the other card from hand and didn't realize it? Because he's announced the card wrong. I would allow them to take that card back and put the other one back in the hand. However, if he puts the card down in play, doesn't announce the name of it, takes his hand off the card and goes back to his hand and then goes, oh, that's not what I meant to play. Professional level, there's no take back. And you're not trying to be a douche here, but to me, you have showed the intent. That's the card you want to play. You didn't name it when you played it. And, if you name the wrong card, it's one thing because you're looking at that card in your hand. It's another thing entirely if you play it and don't say a word. And then swap it.
There you go. So 1, 2, and a 3. Thunder Run from Arsenal. Nice. Nimblism. So I'm making embodiment of lightning. Yep. I'm playing Entwine Lightning. Yep. Revealing. Oh, you don't need to because no reveal. Yep. Sorry, I'm gonna play. Shockwave. Yeah, crack on.
Okay. This is an instance, in my opinion, where he's announced the card and he's taken his hand off the card. The card is on the stack, and you can't take it back at this point. And you've announced the card by name, gone all the way back to your hand, and then changed your mind. Now, the reason that he swapped the cards will become clear in a minute.
Yeah, no reveal though. That's coming for what value? 9. 9. Yeah. Oh, that's a lot of damage. No, so my turn, I do that. I am not going to block. Yep. Sure. Take 9. Take 9 down to 9. Draw a card, make one embodiment. 8, 9. Leave lightning. Entwine for 7. Yep. Any fuse? No fuse. Going to take 7. I'll give it a go again. Yep. We're going to 2 light. Got our tunic weapon attack. So 2 and 2. Ooh. Right. So arcane first.
Now he technically could have done these in either order this turn, but again, and it in this situation it didn't make any difference game wise. Played the first two actions, announced the embodiment, tried to play this one instead. Um, both these are hitting for a ton. He doesn't have a lightning card to fuse with it. He draws the Weave Lightning afterwards off the Plunder run, and then he can continue on. So it really doesn't matter in this situation. But technically, if you announce the correct card, you put the card into play and pay costs. Take your hand off the card and go back and then change your mind. My experience of professional level play is they're going to call a judge and say, you're already past that step. Let me see if I can find one more match and or example. Well, this is a fun board state.
Counter on my tunic. Swim with the harmonized Kodachi, pitching a blue, Lord of Wind, 2 forces. 9 blocks. 39. Swim with the second Kodachi. No blocks. Okay, 38. I will come in with Megantian Release for 4.
Talk about uneventful. There we go.
I will block 6. Block 6. Okay, cool. Arsenal and Arsenal. So 1 card in hand, draw 3. I will play Spike Genius from Arsenal, pitching 4, X's 2. Okay. The items are coming out. And you're searching for?
I'm searching for another induction chamber.
Okay.
So.
Time to load up the guns.
That's my turn. Okay. Kodachi 4. The books. Okay. 39. No, not 39. 37. Leg tap for 4. I have 1 resource right here. No blocks. I will sink. Okay. I'll raise the reflex. Yep. No reaction. Okay. You take 3. 34.
So you've kind of seen that's the part where both players are playing correctly, announcing properly, etc.
Okay. fine. You're the target hero. Thank you for clarifying that. Stop now. I think it's fine, but I don't like to use it. Again, at this point.
Okay, let's talk about combat chains while we're at it. So, again, this is another area where the channel Fabrica is very good. So, when they play a non-attack action card, and then they're fixing to play another non-attack action card, or they go to play an attack action, they close the combat chain, which is the proper way of doing it. So they should be playing Winter Spite, close this chain. Your new chain starts with Entwined Lightning. Now, obviously, we don't have that many heroes that currently use the graveyard that much, except for Levia, or Lovia, however you want to pronounce it. But it's a good habit to get into for doing that. Now, how do you remember all the pumps? And I understand that's where the difficulty lies, is how do you remember everything? And most players will leave the pumps in play, then play their attack action. That way they can calculate the damage, and then if they need to discard or put those cards in the graveyard, they can. That's technically not the way to do it under the rules. And obviously I'm not going to call anybody in a local event. Once you get to Road to Nationals or above, even though the Road to Nationals is left at a casual level, you're going to find players that are going to be more sticklers. Again, be prepared.
Dr. Hank? Block 3? I'm going to pitch this Razzle to Crossbow, but it's fusing, so 4 pieces is fine.
Now you saw the opponent on the left. He pitched a card first, then announced, and then played additional costs. That's exactly how you should do it. That is the correct order. Trying to see if I can find oh, here we go.
Let's see. Probably not going to see it, to be fair. brave draft, and
I don't think I really win if I do that.
See, probably not going to see it, to be fair. I'll be very surprised. Kano, yeah, he's not great. Not great in CC.
yeah. So you're going to take 3 because I'm going to hit one of them.
That's alright.
To have you. Thank you for covering the.
Ah, yes, Magic players looking away whilst they're shuffling. Oh, nice.
Right, good luck, guys.
Good luck. Good luck, have fun, mate. Oh, I need to collect equipment. Standard stuff.
Stay tuned. Watch it. Hello. Hello. I am not now.
Okay, going to
10.
Yeah.
okay. I will take the seat. Opting. I'll bottom that. And then I'll sink below. Block 8. So I take 2. Go to 9. Beginning of my turn, seismic breaks. Make a seismic surge. Swing out on toss. I just removed a card.
Now, you see what just happened. He announced a swing Anathos or Nothos, and then he reveals the card from his arsenal. He immediately calls a judge. That's your mistake. That's what you should do. So we're going to listen to the judge call right quick. Oh, they've muted the mics.
Pleasure just discussing with the judge about the revealed card. Waiting for a confirmation.
Obviously, if any of you guys saw it, that was a pummel in his arsenal. He was ready to smack somebody in the head. And like I say, these things happen, right? Call a judge, clean it up, and don't worry about it. There's already enough. If you're at this level, there's already enough pressure, right?
No effect.
Coming in with Anathos.
Okay. So, I said no box.
No, it's fine. We had a break. I'm not going to hold you to that.
No, it's fine. I said no box.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, I will red pummel it then.
I'll play a Sigil of Suffering.
Yes.
A Sigil of Suffering.
Nice. Nice. Oh, the mind games.
So, in this case, I mean, you could see what David was thinking. He was trying to. He forgot to set Anothos out before he went smashing somebody's face in. Now, Matthew already declared he wasn't going to block, even though he saw the pummel. He knew it was coming, but obviously he was trying to get some damage back into his opponent because his hand is empty. So I understand. But there was no penalty to this player, or at least that's what was announced. But he did reveal a card that was hidden information to his opponent. He gave his opponent a little bit of information, but if those things happen, call a judge. If you have to call it on your opponent, do so. They're there to help and keep things neat and tidy if possible.
So I go to 7. Oh, no, that's you. And you don't...
I take 2.
You do take 2, yeah. Sorry,
You're on
yeah.
7.
I'm on 7. You take 2 from the 8, the 10 to the...
Yep.
8, yep. So 7 plays 8, game state is clear. Give me one moment just to end my turn, yeah. Thank you. Okay, I am good.
Volcanic Shockwave, reveal a Lightning Press.
Well, this is going to tickle.
So coming in for 1 Arcane.
1 arcane, yeah. I'll pitch a showtime to block the
1
arcane.
Arcane, sure.
I will then lock 3.
Press it.
Sink.
Sure.
Seismic breaks. Oh, and a dot of 4.
Take 4.
Yep. You go to 4.
Yeah. Nimbalism.
Yep.
Coax a Commotion.
Very nice.
That's what I'd rather do, dude.
Very
Just trying to coax a commotion up in here.
Yep. No resources floating. What am I seeing? That's So coming in for 7, no go again currently.
9 for 7.
Yeah. I'll block for 7. Do you have the razor? Nice. Yeah. So I take 3, go to 4.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. There's damage resolved, yeah.
Yeah, you've taken.
No, I'm just asking if you're still in attack reactions. Yeah,
I'm not just thinking about the mode of coaxing
yeah.
emotional resolve. So I make 1 and then coaxing emotional resolves. And I'm thinking about the modes here.
Of course.
So you're on 4, I'm on 4.
Yep. I have 2 cards.
And these are all legit questions, right? Because Coax Commotion has multiple different modes. They're wanting to make sure that he doesn't have another Razor Reflexes or another lightning press, because those are the only 2 that could be played in this window.
Both players draw a card, both players create a quicken token.
Yep. I don't have a quicken token. Do you have a spare?
I don't have any quicken tokens.
Okay. Sure.
Fairly certain neither of us are using it, so that's fine. Yeah, quicken tokens. Thank you.
Okay, so you're saying both players draw, both players create a quicken?
Yes.
Cool.
And the Quicken Token mode is relevant here because of what the Lightning Briar deck's trying to do.
So use my quicken token on a match 4.
Yeah. Very nice. Snatch for 4. I'll block with a cranial crush for 3. Sorry, let's tidy this up a bit.
Sure. Draw a card.
No defense reactions yet. To draw a card, I go to 3.
Play a weave lightning, make an embodiment of lightning.
Yeah.
Play a lightning surge for 7. Let's go again.
You've broken the combat chain.
Yep.
So,
These bad boys hit
Yeah.
bin.
just makes it very clear what's going on. I'm very certain I'm dead.
All right, that's very important. The broken combat chain means he can block with his equipment again, which is relevant here. Which is relevant, but in this case, I don't think so because the Bravo chess piece only has 2 defense, but it does break the combat chain, and it is important.
You've got go again.
Yes.
Best I can do is I can block for 2 and gain 3.
Sure.
So very good game. Oh,
Emotion was coaxed.
commotion's coaxed.
So basically what we went through is it is an understanding between both players. Now, I'm not saying one way or the other that the player in question was trying to cheat or was not trying to cheat. But there's just those little few ways that you can keep an opponent from taking the advantage on you. Mostly understand your deck and how those order of operations play. Understand the tournament rules. When you're playtesting those matchups, understand the little pieces, interactions that you're going to run into. If you have a question, raise your hand, ask a judge. If there was a mistake made in game where it affects the game state, call a judge. Even if it's minor. If a player, particularly someone who is trying to circumvent the system, continues to have the same activity level, the more the judges understand and know about it, the more they can watch out for future interactions and can then make the proper assessment that this player is in fact sharking and he can be disqualified. The reason that we say to try to do it, try to turn this information in as soon as possible, is because if a judge is sitting there watching a match, or they've alerted the judging staff, hey, we have somebody that possibly could be sharking, then somebody can go over and check on those games, that player's games as those arise, and if between the number of judge calls, the number of warnings the person has gotten, they can assess based on play, is this person trying to do something that's not right? Now, this whole thing about witch hunting culture, I think that was a little overboard by LSS. We as players, store owners, judges, we don't want to have people that are going to use the rules to bend the rules to their will. We don't want cheaters, liars, cheaters, or thieves in the game. Unfortunately, that's something that I dealt with, particularly in Magic, but I have seen it in other games, and it's not right. So the best way to protect yourself is be prepared if you want to make that step to the next level. What you can do before the event: practice with your deck, practice against the decks that you're going to see at the event, understand where those questionable rules, interactions, and steps can happen. Call a judge when there's a mistake or mistrigger, or if somebody tries to sneak an embodiment of Earth or lightning token in there without announcing it, and when it's the next other player's turn, etc. The more the judge staff is alerted to that activity, the easier it'll be to remove that player if they are actually attempting to circumvent the rules. Many of you know me as the Kolat informant, and we have a saying on my channel: there's no escape from the tiger. Good luck to all of those who are going to be playing in nationals and callings, pro quests, and hopefully pro tours. Educate yourself, educate your teammates, educate the judges, and be on the lookout. Because I'll be watching.